Hey everyone, James from TeaDB here, bringing you another Inbetweenisode. So this is not an episode that I had originally planned for, but it's been one of our most frequent requests to me to do an episode on, and that's just talking about kettles. So we're going to be talking about the kettles that I use. I don't claim to be any sort of an expert. I haven't done huge tests where I've tested 10 plus kettles against each other. But so what I can talk about though is just my actual experience using these different kettles here that I've used, and I basically only used 3 different kettles throughout just my time drinking tea seriously for 8 to 10 years. So those of you that are probably familiar with TeaDB should be familiar with this kettle. This is an Adagio Kettle. It's what Denny and I used at our office back in the day, and it's what we both use, I think, individually. I believe he still uses it. And the reason we first got turned on to it actually is not a reason that we still continue to use it, but it's the variable temperature thing. So this can brew at 2 different temperatures, really boiling water, and then you have sort of like this green coloration here, and then it goes to green tea temperatures, which is 175 or so. And I believe it's just those 2. So you could dial it in between, but I'm not sure if that actually does anything. I think it just goes to one or the other. And so we originally got it just in the intention of drinking green tea. Turns out we don't drink a ton of green tea, and that end up going to boiling 99.9% of the time. So really don't need that variable temperature part. And when we do do Japanese green tea, which you'll kind of want to vary what temperature you want to get to anyways, we've just been using cooling devices to get to that. So the variable temperature reason is not a huge reason in my opinion to get it. I think this cost about $50, or at least it did when we bought it years ago. And it's just been a really reliable kettle. I've intended to replace it with something different for years, but it just hasn't broken. And my wife and we used it in our kitchen. We used it, I use it for my normal tea. So it has been getting heavy usage. One thing that it does get is some scaling just on the bottom of it. Usually what I do for that, and I haven't been 100% effective at treating it, but what I do for that usually is just boil a 50-50 solution of vinegar and water a few times, and then just sort of wipe it down after it cools down, and yeah, and that's it. So, I mean, what I can say about this kettle is it pours fine, pretty standard, maybe a little bit too expensive if you don't care about the variable temperature part. I might recommend a different kettle, such as this one. But if you do like those green tea temperatures and stuff like that, this is a good workhorse. Some of my tea friends have complained about the Bonavitas, about like the little spout falling off and causing sort of a dangerous situation. Haven't had anything like that here. The pour is fine. One reason to get those sort of gooseneck ones is the pour is just really great. It pours differently. Not gonna obviously be the case here, but it's mainly just a relatively standard kettle that works quite well. Alright, so moving along, this is and this I think fills up about 1 quart. So it's a smaller kettle, which could be good for solo drinking. So this is the newest addition to my kettles. This is a Sakura Swk 1701 DB. It's stainless steel double wall electric kettle, and this only costs about $30 give or take on Amazon. A little bit bigger, as you can see. It fills up 1.8 quarts, so that's almost twice the size of this. So depending on what size you need, it could be good or bad. I find that this is still pretty good for solo use, free solo use for tea. I like it. It's been getting pretty good use in our kitchen. I've only had it for a few months now, but so far I've liked it quite a bit. One nice thing about it is with this kettle, when you boil it up, the Adagio Kettle gets hot on the outside. This kettle, that's not the case. It'll get hot on the top, but the double walling makes it so you can actually touch this part. So that is, I gotta say, something I didn't think about when I bought it, but something that I do like. Other than that, it's not variable temperature, very simple on-off. Pour is similar to this guy, and pours just normally. It's not a gooseneck. I find I don't actually need the gooseneck. The goosenecks handle really well. These kettles you can pour a little bit faster too, so I don't know. To me, it's just a matter of trade-offs. You feel a little fancier when you get the goosenecks, and I intended to get one for a while, but Garrett talked me into this. So definitely liking this. If I had to rebuy, I would definitely buy this over this, and that's mainly because I don't need that variable temperature functionality, and this seems to just function very well. So yeah, not the cheapest kettle, but for something that's going to get heavy use and stuff like that, definitely recommend this. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to talk about, sorry for that noise, is my Tetsu bin. So this gets talked about a lot. It's something I have historically used during non-summer months, so I'm filming this here in August, so not the time of year that I would actually be using this. And I recently moved, and I haven't necessarily found out how I'm going to use this in my space. I've historically used it sort of on coffee tables and that sort of thing with a shorter thing. You will need either a hot plate, which is what I use here, or some sort of an induction heating device. There are some different schools of thought on if you should use induction or not. I'm not going to comment on that because I have no experience with induction. I choose to use just a really basic hot plate. I bought I think it was about $50 on Amazon, the Waring hot plate, and it's probably an older model as I've had this for a few years now, but you could probably get something similar without too much trouble. And you pretty much just fill up water in the Tetsu bin to just under the spout level, heat it up. I just turned this to level 3, level 4, and then pour the water in to whatever you're using. Couple things to keep in mind. The water does come out a little bit differently with the Tetsu bin. I like it. I haven't done extensive tests to say. I think the general school of thought is that it does come out a little softer. I'm already dealing with fairly soft lower TDS water here, just living in the Pacific Northwest, and I've enjoyed using it. And the reason I do use it just in the summer is because it can make the room quite hot if I'm using this hot plate and heating up. It just can make the room a little bit more hot than compared with an electric kettle. So a little bit more heat going just into your ambient area. And last thing I want to talk about is just how I take care of it. Again, nothing too special. Basically, the one thing I make sure I always do is I want to make sure I dry out the Tetsu bin to prevent unnecessary rust from occurring. And so I do this basically by emptying out the kettle, and then if it needs it, I will turn this kettle on, this hot plate on to the minimum level and just put it like here until it heats up enough to just sort of let that water evaporate and get it dry, and then I'll move it off into a trivet or something like that. So again, nothing too crazy. I picked this up from Artistic Nippon. I think you can still see the same model. It's the same one that Half Dipper Hobbs bought. It was $230, $240 when I got it. So it's on the lower end as far as Tetsu bins go. And one thing to also make sure about if you are interested in buying a Tetsu bin is to make sure that you get one that's intended to be used as a kettle. Some are intended to be used more as a teapot, and so you want to make sure you make that distinction. The ones that are used as sort of as teapots, those will tend to be a little bit cheaper. So don't fall into that, and make sure you do your due diligence on figuring that out. Other than that, I think that just about wraps it up. So let me know how you like this episode. Let me know if you what kettle you use and how you like it. Post in the comments below. That might be helpful to other people trying to make that sort of decision. I will see y'all soon and hopefully be drinking some tea next time. Cheers.